Alright everybody, welcome back once again to Fangame Marathon 2025. With me, I have quite a lot going on. It's time for a round of Rain World 2v2 Lockout Bingo. And I think I'll leave it to the commentators to start introducing the runners and what's about to happen.
Alright. Hello, I'm one of your commentators, Shrub. I'm joined by my co-commentator, Ferret. Say hi.
Hello, I'm Tactical Ferret.
And yeah, we're going to be doing some 2v2 Rain World Bingo. We have two teams, green team and a pink team. On the green team, we have Sheldon's pet rock, Sheldon, and Polarcat. And on the pink team, we have Bronsej, or Bronze, and Syrilth. They're going to be playing, bingo. It's a 7x7 board. If all of them want to say hi, they can say hi.
Hello, everyone.
And we're going to split them up into teams, and they're going to be battling to see who can get the most amount of squares in the next 80 minutes or so. And we're going to, real quick, do a little preamble on Rain World. So, in Rain World, you play as a slug cat, and it's a 2D survival platformer, just so you get your bearings as we enter the game here. The players are going to start in things called shelters. These are the most important part of bingo, as players need to make their way to a shelter somewhere on the map in order to lock in their bingo progress. And yeah, we're going to start the game off pretty quickly here once they split up into teams.
Can the runners move to their individual voice channels then?
All right. Good luck, everyone. Good luck as a team.
All right. And we are going to press start right here. Get our bearings in the world. Which, Ferret, you're going to need to tell me where they spawn.
Yes. Honestly, not sure. There right now. It seems in the first part of Underhang.
So,
yes.
Rain World has a bunch of different regions. Players can spawn in, and so they're going to be spawning in one of the most difficult regions to start in, called the Exterior. It's got a lot of really dangerous platforming, and we're going to see where these runners end up heading.
Yes. So I was mistaken. This is actually the leg. They look very similar. But yes.
Yeah. So we're in the leg. It's kind of hard to explain high-level Rain World gameplay and Rain World at the same time, so we're going to try and do our best, but you can see here, all four players are playing as the same slug cat. This is the red slug cat named Hunter. They are carnivorous, so they need to eat meat in order to survive. Now, I mentioned shelters earlier, and shelters are the way that players can store their progress on various bingo goals. And they need enough food from eating creatures to sleep in these shelters that are scattered across the map. Now, the map is constant. So all of these players are very familiar with Rain World, and they know where every shelter is, and they know what every region is. And so they're going to be making their way wherever they think it's best to go in order to get as many goals as possible. See on the bottom right, Bronze has already met his fate. Rain World is a pretty difficult game. You are basically at the bottom of the food chain, and there are many, many creatures everywhere that want to try and eat you.
Yes, Rain World is filled with many threats, creatures being one of them, and you can see in the top left one of the very interesting creatures known as a Miros bird. It is a large kiwi-like bird with a scissors as a pair of beak. It will lock onto you and it will instantly kill you if it can reach you. But luckily, as you can see, Syrilth in the top left is grabbing these like blue-looking fruits. They're actually like flashbangs, and it'll blind these birds, and that is how he's going to try to get around them. Other creatures that you probably saw are like the spider that Bronze is dealing with. That thing can spit darts that will knock you out temporarily, and it'll try to grab you. Earlier, you might have saw like a camo lizard. So all these are threats that the players are trying to track while progressing towards their goal.
Yeah, there are basically everything in Rain World wants to eat and kill you, and there's many, many mechanics to deal with them. And so kind of what these runners are going to be able to show off here is how skilled they are at dealing with these issues. Now, what makes this a Fangame Marathon is the mod itself, Bingo Mode. So Bingo Mode is not a part of base Rainworld. It's actually an extension of a mod that got added as official DLC into one of Rainworld's DLCs named Downpour. That mod was initially called Expedition, and then Bingo Mode extends it with many more goals and also the logic around, winning based on majority and all of the multiplayer code. So these players aren't actually in the same game world as each other, but the goal progress and the goal completion is synced across the different clients. And so as pink or green team completes a goal, it'll show up on the other team and lock them out of completing that goal. So yeah, we're playing a 7x7 board, which makes it a little cluttered, but we wanted to show off the full breadth of bingo here. And you'll see as runners make progress on goals, they'll temporarily flash on their screen. The icons are a little bit hard to understand if you're not familiar with bingo. So when the goals get completed, we'll explain what the runners were up to. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. We're starting in a pretty dark area. And yeah, hopefully we get a good tour of Rainworld. There's, I honestly cannot remember the count of regions for Hunter in Downpour, as each character has like a different map, and depending on if they have DLCs enabled, they'll have different regions that they can go to. But we should see plenty of regions, I'd say at least 10, across the course of this bingo, so that'll be exciting to see.
Yes, it is worth noting that this region that they spawn in is pretty late in the game. It's very challenging, and so Bronsej decided to progress further into the region, so they're going to have a lot more challenges, while the rest of them, it seems, have went back to a region known as the Memory Crypts. They'll probably be able to get to the easier regions, and they'll probably be able to complete more goals, but I would say keep an eye on Bronsej.
There's our very first goal for Green Team by Polarcat, who has sheltered. You can see on their screen there that they were sleeping in their shelter successfully, which locks in progress, as I mentioned before. That bottom left goal is the Miro Spirit unlock. So in Rainworld, there's kind of extra collectibles littered around the map called unlocks that you can use in like a sandbox mode later on. And that was the placed unlock for the Miro Spurge, which are those dangerous scissor kiwis that were giving some trouble to Sheldon and Syrilth earlier on. So yeah, now we're already seeing a routing deviation, as Ferret mentioned, with Bronze headed further up the leg. The leg is kind of a, or the exterior rather, is the full region. It's kind of a desolate place. There's not too many goals, so it'd be interesting to see what the routing is, as 3 of the other players headed elsewhere. Not only is the fauna dangerous in Rainworld, but also the flora. If you noticed on Polarcat's screen, the top left, they just met their demise to an evil kelp that resides in these dark waters around here, and they got pulled into the depths below. And yeah, when I said everything in Rainworld wants to kill you, that wasn't hyperbole. Basically everything in this game wants to kill you. So these players are incredibly skilled at dealing with these creatures and these evil entities. So hopefully we won't see too many deaths.
To make things even harder for the players, not only are they dealing with all these creatures, but they are also on a time limit. Every cycle, every day, pretty much in this world, you have a certain amount of time to get to another shelter, to collect enough food, and to get to your objective. If you do not make it in time, pretty much the whole environment, which is the rain, will come down and crush you. The rain is so powerful, it will kill you. With the exception where Bronsej is, instead of rain, it will be lightning. But the theme is still there. You're on the clock. You have to keep moving. You can't take your time. You have to be efficient.
Yeah, the cycle lengths will be randomized somewhere between 6.5 and about 13.5 minutes. So that kind of can drastically alter what people choose to do in their routing. It's also worth mentioning that the Slugcat that we're playing is one of 10 in Rainworld, 8 of which are officially supported by Bingo. And Hunter was in the original release of Rainworld, the hard mode character. And so difficulty in Rainworld crops up in terms of reputation. And so if you're on an easier mode, your reputation with creatures will be by default higher. But as Hunter, you have quite low reputation with just about every kind of creature, which means they're more likely to target you, go after you, and try to kill you, like these scavengers right here on Polarcat's screen. This one's holding a lantern which can help illuminate this dark area called a Shaded Citadel. It just threw basically what we call a beehive at Polar, which sends out these bees that end up tethering you to the floors and the walls. Just could be an inconvenient time loss and can often get you killed, but they were all right there.
Yes, and back to the theme of being on time, if you look at the bottom left Bronsej, you can kind of see the world is shaking. That's kind of your sign that you're running out of time. And so he's now having to book it to near shelter. Luckily, there's one right next to him. Another interesting thing with Bronsej is that he's using this thing called a grapple worm. So typically in these regions, there are like optimal ways to get around. That's only if you are willing to experiment and find them there yourself. The game will not explain it to you. But the scrap worm is very useful in this region because there's a lot of death pits, and it's easy to swing from side to side. But here, they actually locked in a goal, which is killing the grapple worms that we were talking about here.
Yeah, so that's Pink's first goal, and Green also got their second goal there, which is in the top right. That is the Shaded Citadel Arena unlock. So like I mentioned earlier with the Mirrorspurred creature unlock, there's also arena unlocks, which are just another collectible, and Polarcat found the one in Shaded Citadel. They're all in placed locations, so if the teams, all of the teams are pretty well aware of where the unlocks are around the map. So they're a pretty common goal in bingo. So yeah, they'll be able to route efficiently for those sorts of things.
Yes,
Looks like Polar's also going to be... Oh yeah? Go on for it.
If you watch the top left, we're about to see a new region here. It's known as Shoreline. As you can probably guess from the name, and it'll be a little bit more clear once they progress just a little bit more. But it's kind of like the coast of this region. Mostly water-based. You'll see a lot of swimming and a lot of water-based creatures. Salamanders, eel lizards, all very interesting. Much more of a safe region.
I think your OBS might be flip ferret, so I think left and right are going to be flipped. Yeah, it'll be all right, though. You guys will understand. But yeah, in this case, it's the top right. Syrilth is headed into this water-based region called Shoreline. There's plenty of goals to do in Shoreline from what I see. So yeah, we'll get to point those out. Just about every region in Rainworld has some unique item or creature. So this is kind of how runners end up moving from place to place. If you need to, for example, kill jetfish. Those are a creature that you can only really find in Shoreline, which now Syrilth is leaving. So we'll have to see what the routing decision is there. But yeah, that'll keep runners moving around and kind of showcasing these different regions. Sheldon on the bottom left is making their way to another new region soon enough here called Garbage Waste. They're going through a connection that isn't usually seen that often in Rainworld. It was added in one of the DLCs, Downpour, and it connects Shaded Citadel to Garbage Waste. But yeah, it's not terribly useful unless you're playing bingo. So if he's familiar with traversing it, that's because he's played quite a lot of bingo.
Yes, and if you look bottom right with Bronsej, he's currently in battle with a Scion lizard. This is a very special lizard. It's able to propel itself with its like gas that it stores in its own body. Very dangerous. Very interesting that it just kind of decided to leave. I guess there's a second one though.
Yeah.
We'll see if they can handle it.
Yeah, there's lots. There's a couple of enemies in Rainworld that are just they have like different. There's different archetypes of enemies in Rainworld, and the lizards are the most kind of iconic and the most common. And they'll have different colors, which will signify their different abilities. Earlier we saw in one of the regions, Bronze, or in the leg, which Bronze is just making his way through right now, we saw a white lizard, which when standing still can camouflage and be a real nuisance if you can't see them. And yeah, now we've just seen the Scion lizards, which are incredibly aggressive, incredibly smart, and can propel themselves across the map quite quickly. With the gas that is stored in their behinds.
Yes. Most lizards also come with an armored head, so the way to deal with them is to hit them with a rock to flip them and stab them. Or just to try to get around them anyways. But you got to get to their soft parts, which is behind, like, on their back end.
Yeah, there's a couple of different weapons in Rainworld, and the most common that you'll use is a spear. Hunter is a very special slug cat because they have the ability to hold 2 spears and one of them goes onto their back, where most slug cats can only hold one spear at a time, which is the actual way you deal damage. Hunter's able to hold two, which kind of balances out the fact that they are the hard mode character that must eat meat to survive. But yeah, so the standard combat for dealing with lizards is if you throw a spear at their head, it'll just clank off and they'll be mildly perturbed and then you'll be eaten shortly after. If you can get a rock into them, they will flip over and expose their soft underbelly and you can stab them. Which we will see a lot for not only food, but also one of the goals that is kind of persistent across most bingo matches is needing a global score requirement, which comes from killing different creatures. So you can see, if you'll see it popping up quite a lot, it's that star that's in the top left, and it here is 128 points. So a lizard will usually give you somewhere around 4 to 6 points. And so you can kind of get a grasp of how often they will need to kill and fight creatures in order to get that goal done eventually.
And if you look
Sheldon,
bottom left with Sheldon, they have entered a new region. We mentioned a little bit. It's called Garbage Waste. I'm sure you could probably guess what the theme is here. But yes, a terrain filled with like a mess. The main enemy here you're going to see is scavengers. We didn't mention them a little bit earlier, but they are actually a very complex creature in this game. They have their own reputation system, so depending on how you react with them, whether you give them items or whether you kill them, will change on whether they like you or not. So here, Sheldon just threw a bomb at a whole pack of them.
No,
so they're
didn't
probably
even throw
not
the bomb. That was actually a
didn't?
scavenger threw the bomb into its own toll, and Sheldon was able to get credit for that bingo
Nice.
goal.
And they don't,
yeah.
and they like them.
Yeah, so scavengers, as you can see on Sheldon's screen at the carnage that is ensuing, they're not the most intelligent creatures. They're a pretty good interpretation of what wasteland scavengers might be. Right now, Sheldon's in a structure called a toll. And so these scavengers will set up these outposts around the world where you will only be able to pass without being accosted if you pay them a pearl, which you can see is on that skull that was in the middle of the toll. Sheldon got caught in the crossfire there by a scavenger. And scavengers can use, you need to pay the toll with that pearl in order to make it through. But scavengers are very finicky creatures, and if they think you have slighted them, they will stab you without hesitation, and oftentimes they will end up stabbing their own friends in the course of trying to stab you. Or in that case, trying to stab a vulture, which is another enemy archetype in Rain World. They are evil sky chickens that will come down and kill things very, very quickly. And Sheldon just got caught in the crossfire there.
It's also worth noting that scavs are probably one of the hardest creatures to deal with in general, just because you can never tell their intentions all the time. You could be the best friends with any scav, and then you just happen to meet a very mean scav, and they will still kill you.
Yes.
Even if you're like, yeah, good friends. So
Especially Hunter starts with pretty low scavenger reputation, and so unless you are able to trade with them quite quickly, they will kill you on sight. Rainworld scavengers, they're all, like most creatures in the game, they all have unique IDs which indicate what their personality traits will be, and so certain scavengers will be more aggressive than other scavengers, and you can kind of see it if you can notice the scavengers are a little bit jittery. They're probably more aggressive and they might stab you without warning. But again, like Ferret said, it's very hard to tell what their intentions are. Pink's getting their second goal there too. If you want to explain that, I know that one is
yes.
Ferret.
So, speaking of scavengers, this one is revolving around the scavengers. So they actually have also set up, so scavengers can set up these things like shops where you can go ahead and give them items and then they'll give you something in exchange. One of the goals in this bingo mod is to trade with them, and depending on the value of the item depends on how much your score goes up. They had to get a total trade score of 26. But yes, yeah, I don't actually see who saw it, but they probably ended up trading with a few pearls.
Yeah, I think it was
there is a way to
Syrilth.
kind of gotcha. There is kind of a way to like cheese the skull just a little bit. You can trade the item that they give you right back to them, and that still counts. So that's like a strategy a lot of players like to use.
Yeah, and we mentioned pearl. I mentioned pearls earlier when I was talking about the tolls. Pearls are one of the most valuable items for scavengers. They like the shiny pearls, which are scattered all around the map, and sometimes you can find them in another location, treasury, which you can see Sheldon is in right now. Sheldon's going to pick up a pearl off the ground here, steal it from the scavengers, and then trade it right back to them. And yeah, so scavengers value pearls quite a lot, and they have 10 value. So for Syrilth, who I believe got that trade goal, they would need to trade 2 pearls and then probably 2 spears. Spears are each worth 3 value. But yeah, it's actually quite challenging to find that much to trade. So Syrilth did a great job finding that. We also, while we were yapping there, Pink locked in their 3rd goal, which was on the right edge. There's the I can never remember the name of this, slime mold unlock. So slime mold is a kind of food in Rainworld that you can find in certain areas, and is very prevalent in the Underhang, which is the area that Bronsej is in. And so the game developers decided to place the unlock there, and Bronze knew exactly where it was and was able to go and grab it. So yeah, the unlocks are pretty, they're pretty much the same. You'll always find them kind of in an area related to that item itself. So the Miros bird unlock was near the Miros birds, and the slime mold unlock was near the slime mold, etc. So we probably will try to not talk too much about those when they show up again. Yeah, Bronze is in Underhang and trying to cross Underhang, which we've mentioned is quite dangerous. Here's another reason why it's quite dangerous.
New enemy, yes.
Yeah,
the daddy long legs. Yes. Okay. So the daddy long legs are very frustrating to deal with enemy, especially in the locations they place them. But they're like, imagine like a very large, like I don't know, like almost like a spaghetti-like monster. It has a core. It's got a bunch of tentacles, and the way it works, it functions like a cancer. They'll try to grab any living creature. It doesn't have to be you. Grabs any living creature and tries to absorb it into its core so it can multiply. But yes, they cannot see. But the way that they can locate you is by hearing. And when they hear a sound, they'll shoot out a tentacle to go and feel for it. And if they get you, they'll stick onto you. And if you don't have like a weapon or a spear, they will just pull you in and it's done.
Yeah. They have an absurd amount of health too. Those daddy long legs have, I believe, 100 health. And so to give you some reference for that, the lizards that Bronsej has been fighting quite often take about 2 spears to kill. And those guys usually have about 3-4 health. So 100 health, you can understand it's not really feasible to try and kill one with just a regular spear. There's other types of weapons you can use, but most of the time evasion is your only real choice. I think Pink is going to be getting another goal here shortly. Yeah, so Syrilth is now locking in a shelter. The eat 5 jellyfish goal. Now, jellyfish are a food that is basically exclusive to Shoreline, which is the region that Syrilth is in. And yeah, just went through, ate 5 of those guys, and then made it back to the shelter. So that was a pretty easy goal to get if you know where to route to.
Yes. Also, you can use those jellyfish as weapons. They're probably actually one of the best weapons in the game.
Yeah.
Honestly, more important thing that we should be mentioning is what Syrilth is in, and we're going to probably see it a little bit better in a moment here. But in this world, in this world of Rainworld, there are these things called superstructures. Giant cube-shaped calculators. And one of them in this world has actually crashed to the ground. That's the one that Syrilth is in. And if soon we should be able to see what's called their puppet, and it's pretty much their like interface for creatures to like interact with them. It looks humanoid, but yes, I'm assuming there is a goal with this one. Yes, deliver garbage waste pearl to Moon.
Yeah,
so that's their name.
Yeah, they are iterators. This is an iterator superstructure. And yeah, we'll be seeing Moon in a second. Full name looks to the moon. There's lots of lore. We're not going to try and explain the lore. We not only probably get it wrong, but there's just so much of the lore to this game. So yeah, this is Moon right here. Moon is actually at this point in time incapacitated, as each Slugcat is at a different point in the Rainworld timeline. And Hunter's goal in their campaign is actually to bring this green neuron, as it's called, to Moon, which we saw very briefly there, and will actually revive her. Unfortunately, Syrilth is kind of a speedrunner and doesn't want to watch cutscenes and lore and will just leave right away, as there's not much else to do with Moon. That is the curse of a
Hands on
speedrunner.
him.
Yeah. But yeah, Moon will now be awake, and of course that was a goal for this bingo. Since delivering the green neuron is part of Hunter's campaign, it is a goal that as Hunter you can spawn with the green neuron in your starting shelter, and you can bring that to Looks to the Moon as a goal completion. Yeah, it looks like Syrilth is going to make his way out of Looks to the Moon structure now. You can kind of tell that it's not normal rain world just by the geometry. It's much more kind of mechanical and square. Yeah, Bronze also, I want to mention, the bottom left, has kind of made it out of the Underhang, which is one of the most difficult regions to traverse, though it is into a new region called Chimney Canopy. This is one of my favorite regions in the game, filled with a lot of parkour and a lot of really dangerous creatures. And in a similar vein, Polarcat in the top left is also in a new region called Industrial Complex. This is the kind of the center point of Rain World. This is the Rain World region, as it were. It's got lots of things to do in terms of goal completion. And yeah, you'll almost always find yourself here in a campaign or a bingo for some reason or another. Bronsej is also now being camped by these vultures that we mentioned earlier. Vultures are very curious creatures. They have a set number of them that will spawn in a region, but they can come into any room with an open sky. There's actually both variants of vultures on screen right here, which is going to be a little bit hard to see if you're not familiar with Rain World, but the one on the bottom is called a king vulture, and the one on the top is a regular vulture. You can kind of see by their mask size and just their size overall. And king vultures are like regular vultures, which come down and try to grab you with their mouths, except they have a gun on them because the developers thought that would be really funny to add. And so they have a laser sight that you'll see trained onto Hunter here. If they end up showing up, and if you stay in that sight for too long, they will shoot a tusk at you, and it will kill you instantly, and then they'll haul you up into the sky, and you'll get eaten in some unknown location. But hopefully Bronze is just going to completely avoid them. Chimney Canopy here. Sheldon, the bottom left, if you just saw, was still back at this toll that they've been around for a little bit. One of the goals that is, well, there's that deliver the green neuron to Moon, like we mentioned earlier. And okay, I'm going to skip out on what I was saying about Sheldon and mention this other goal that showed up. That goal in the top left that Pink just got, it's got a weird symbol, is called the Outlaw Passage. So in Rain World, there's kind of these achievements you can get as you go around the world for doing kind of various challenges, like only eating a certain type of food or visiting a certain location. And they got the Outlaw Passage. And now the Outlaw Passage is a passage you get for killing a bunch of creatures that you don't necessarily need to be killing. It's quite easy to get as Hunter, actually. You only need about 7 creatures killed. So it was destined to be gotten quite early in this bingo here. If you look on the bottom right, Bronsej screen. The screen's gotten all weird. They're going to be meeting an NPC that you can find scattered around the world. These are called echoes. And echoes they have lore significance. And what they do is they raise your karma, as it's called. Now, karma is kind of the way that you can get between regions in Rain World. There's different gates that require a certain karma value, which your karma goes up when you survive consecutive cycles, and it goes down if you die. And visiting an echo will increase your karma cap, making it easier to get through certain regions. And yeah, a lot of lore around them. The important thing is that Bronze was able to trigger one by having a high enough karma already, and was able to meet it, which is one of the few goals in the game that doesn't require actually sheltering, as when you meet an echo, it resets the day back to where it was. Yeah, hopefully that it was a coherent enough explanation. They're weird spaghetti monsters in the sky that make the game a little bit easier to play. In Bingo, however, their advantage with karma is kind of is taken away just to make it... that's just how Expedition worked. The mod that Bingo is based after, that's just how it worked initially. So that's how it stays.
Also, I've returned.
Oh, hello again,
Hello.
Ferret.
Has anyone explained Leviathans?
We have not. This is your chance.
Awesome, easy.
Okay.
So if you look at Syrilth in the top right, you can kind of see it peeking in. Fortunately, he's ditching it completely. But there's these giant serpent-like creatures that
In
have
the
a
water.
hydraulic press as a face. Yeah, they're in the
Yeah.
water, and they're mostly actually not too dangerous unless they just happen to lock onto you in the worst times. But they will try to chase you, and they will swim just slightly faster to you, and they'll crunch you. But if you're fast and if you can kind of like hop around them, you can kind of avoid them. Cyril didn't even have to deal with them. Didn't hop in the water. But yes, that is the biggest enemy in Rain World.
Yeah. And there's actually a goal on this board on the top right that hasn't been completed yet. I think Syrilth is trying to be safe and shelter before making an attempt at that, because you often will die in the attempt to grab that goal. So it's good to be sheltered nearby so you can try again. But yeah, that goal is to dodge the Leviathan bite, which is basically you need to catch their aggro and be close enough to them that they will attempt to bite you, and then you need to escape alive, which is, yeah, it's actually quite a difficult task. So we'll probably see Syrilth trying it here soon enough. Leviathans, funny enough, they don't deal damage at all. If you are caught in their hydraulic press, they just call the die function on the player. So it's a little bit indelicate, but there is no surviving getting caught in the jaws. Yeah, we're going to see Syrilth is using a creature called a jetfish right now. These are creatures that are quote-unquote passive. They reside in the water. You can grab them. They'll let you swim quite a bit faster, and they'll make it a lot easier to dodge the Leviathan. These guys can help you out, but they're also kind of a hindrance sometimes. They like to smack you around and try to drown you because they're evil. Such is the way of passive creatures in this game. In the top left. Oh yeah.
If you look at Sheldon, bottom left here. If you look, it's kind of hard to see. It kind of blends in with the environment, but there's a lot of this like brown glue on the wall. And this goes back to those DLLs we talked about earlier. One did drop into garbage waste. Because garbage, is brown, it kind of changed its color. But that gloop on the wall, those hanging all those like hanging legs, those tentacles, they're all dangerous. If you touch it, it will try to grab you and pull you in, and you will die as if it was like the DLL. Luckily, they're moving on, so they don't have to deal with it too much. But you might see that more depending on where these runners go.
Yeah. We're also going to see Polarcat in the top left is in a new region. This is called Pipe Yard. This region was added in the Downpour DLC, and it connected to Industrial Complex, which is the region that they were in previously. Pipe Yard is very similar in terms of vibes, I think, to Industrial Complex, but it has a lot of pretty useful connections, and usually there's a lot of places you can get goals here for bingo. Looks like they're immediately headed out again, so I'm not entirely sure what their play is here. I haven't gotten completely familiar with all 49 squares on this board, so they might have a plan that I'm not aware of. All right, and there we go. There's green getting another goal. That goal is to bomb the scavenger toll. Looks like Sheldon has sheltered with that, and that was their long-standing nemesis, that toll in garbage waste, that scavenger toll.
Yes.
They finally locked that goal in, which is great. What else is going on here? We're seeing... oh, yeah?
Yeah, bottom right, Bronsej. They're in a new region known as Sky Islands, probably the best region in this entire game. Very difficult region. A lot of death pits all around because, at Sky Islands, it's very high up in the air. Quick summary of the region: it functions as like a radio, like communication system for the giant superstructures. That's the quick summary of it. But probably what Bronsej is going to look out for are these like white lizards around. If you see there's like these little bug dudes, those are actually animal, like a creature you can use to float around. But yes, the main threat is falling.
Yeah, Sky Islands is a lot of pretty difficult parkour, but also some incredible scenery. Right now, looks like Bronze, I think, is trying to farm points. I'm going to take a break from that. And okay, never mind. Sheldon left. Sheldon was encountering a very dangerous enemy. I hope they see it again so we can talk about it. Yeah, it looks like Bronze is farming points right now. I think they're at about 90 to 100 points of that 128 I mentioned earlier. Sky Islands has a lot of spawns and a lot of really aggressive spawns. So it is quite easy to try and farm that goal in Sky Islands. On the top left, Polarcat is encountering some water combat with a new lizard type. These are called salamanders. They like to reside in water, as you might imagine. And Polarcat's just locked in, or hasn't quite locked in, but it's gotten enough progress on another goal, which is to hit creatures with lily pucks. Now, lily pucks are those little green things that are sitting in the water, and they are both a fruit and also a one-time use spear. While normal spears as hunter will deal 1.25 damage, I believe, lily pucks deal a flat 0.8. So they're not the greatest for killing things, but it is a goal to pick them up, get enough unique ones, and hit creatures with them. If you want to explain the Vista too for Polarcat.
Yes. So a Vista point, so in Bingo, much like the arenas, there are specific locations that these Vista points can spawn. It's just like a kind of looks like a hologram, and you got to go and collect it by hitting it. There are 3 per each region. The runners will not know where where they are located. They do know where the Vistas could be, but they will still have to check each one and hope they get lucky. I do not know personally where any of them are. I'd have to use a map, and I'm sure they're using a map as well.
Yeah.
But function very similar to an arena unlock.
Yeah. Polar's also locking in some progress on eating baby centipedes, another kind of creature in Rain World. If you couldn't tell, there's a lot of creatures in Rain World. And yeah, so these guys are a great food source for a meat eater like Hunter, or for any creature actually, any slug cat except for one of them, as they give 2 food pips instead of the regular 1. And so they're gonna take some of them back to this shelter right here and try and farm, I believe, this eat 5 baby centipedes goal over the next 2 cycles. Green locked in another square there.
Yep. This one, another scavenger goal. So specifically at these toll booths, they're kind of going to be like a lot of weapons, spears. And for this goal, specifically, the objective is to steal these spears. Of course, if you steal the spears in front of the scavengers, they will not like you. So that's the challenge of this one, is taking them without them aggroing on you and throwing the spear. But it looks like they locked it in.
Yeah, the scavs, you'll kind of decrease reputation based on how many scavs see you steal from the toll, and they will go after you quite hard. There's Pink getting a double lock-in now. That is, one goal was to, wait. Oh, I was looking at the wrong side. Yeah, so there's the Hunter Passage, and also to kill 3 jetfish. Jetfish are near Syrilth in the top right. He's in Shoreline, which is where those jetfish that help you move around in the water I mentioned are. So he just killed 3 of them. And they also got the Hunter Passage, which is to survive 6 cycles by only eating meat, which is pretty easy to do as Hunter. Hunter the Slug Cat, getting Hunter the Passage is quite easy to do. And Pink also locked in 128 points as well. I believe that was Bronsej sleeping there, who I thought was farming it. Like I said, Skylands is a great place to get that. They're heading into a super dangerous area right here. Looks like they're looking for a Vista. Yes, on the very top right, what that icon is to find the Sky Islands Vista. And that room that they had just entered is one of the rooms that could have it, but it could be any of the 3, so they got to check them all, like Ferret said. It's kind of good that they didn't have to go up that one.
You might have noticed another creature in this game, in Bronsej in the bottom right. You kind of saw him throw a spear, and it kind of hit like a pole, and then the pole kind of freaked out and disappeared. So that's actually a creature in its own. It's called a pole plant, and they mimic the poles that you climb in Rain World. So yes, if you grab a hold of it, it acts like almost like a Venus flytrap almost, and it'll stick to you and it'll pull you in, and that's how you die. I'm assuming everyone kind of knows, like these runners are experienced enough where we all kind of know where the pole plants are, but for someone who's brand new, they're super tricky.
Okay, Bronze just got super unlucky there. They encountered another creature called a dropwig. You know, these guys try to camouflage in the ceiling and drop down on you as you walk underneath them. And Bronsej actually just got kind of randomly aggroed by one, which is pretty uncommon actually, and ended up rolling a 20% chance that they died instantly. You can see a dropwig was getting to position there, and once they drop down, they go on a rampage. They try to kill anything that they can, but this white lizard that Bronsej is fighting right now ended up getting the best of it. One of the greatest things about Rain World is if you just sit there and watch for long enough, you'll just see an entire ecosystem at work. I said at the start that the game is a survival platformer, but it's kind of hard to genreify it, because I like to say it's a survival platformer and an ecosystem simulator. There's Green getting triple goals right there.
So
We're
yes,
gonna have
they
to.
collected the Vista Point. They collected eating 5 of those centipedes, and then they also collected the Pearl and Pipe Yard.
Yeah,
Also, these pearls. That's one of the objectives. So there's several like pearls, colored pearls, spread out through the entire game. They're kind of like I don't know, not Easter eggs, but like kind of how you learn the lore of the game. And it's very difficult because you have to go find these pearls, and then you have to go take it all the way back to the iterators to read them. At least in this context with bingo, all you have to do is touch it.
yeah. And
Um,
so they just needed to get the pipe yard one. And so they were in pipe yard, Polarcat, and went and found that pearl. They know the locations are consistent, so long as a scavenger doesn't come along and pick it up on its own. They'll know exactly where it is, and they went and picked that up. Yeah, and they also found that vista that we mentioned they saw earlier. Polarcat was in no rush to get that vista, from what I recall. They saw it in a room and then immediately left the room and didn't come back to it until quite a bit later. So I think they understand exactly where Pink Team is at. Polarcat
yes.
just met their demise. You want to explain those guys?
Oh yes. Okay. So centipedes, we talked about them a little bit, but we mostly talked about the small ones. So the centipedes also are an enemy. They function like a battery almost, and the way that they kill their prey, so how they did it with with Polar, is if they can get both ends to connect to you, they complete the circuit, and it gives you a deadly shock. Now Polar is in a very like tough spot here. There's tons of centipedes, and there's one that's like particularly malicious, known as the red centipede. So you're gonna see in this game a couple times the theme of red being extra bad. That's pretty much the hardest creatures in this game. Centipede has their version, and this red centipede, it is armored, it is fast, it will lock onto you, and it is very easy to kill you with. Most of the time, you typically want to avoid it, but if you're a good player, you can actually kill it, though it takes a lot of effort. And unfortunately, Polar got caught between not only just a red centipede, but some other bigger ones, and could not escape. But yes. It also seems like Bronsej in the bottom right is dealing with an echo. Whoa, can anyone hear at least me? I apologize for the commentary issues. But let me know if anyone can hear me. Awesome. All right. I'll take solo commentary for now. Hopefully Shrub will return. But yes, sorry for that.
I have been accidentally muted for quite some time now. My
Oh, hey,
apologies.
welcome back.
Yeah, I've been yapping constantly.
Yes. So let's go ahead and play some catch up here.
Yeah,
But bottom right, Bronsej entering another region, the farm arrays. Yes, let's see. They did just throw an item. It's called the Spore Puff, and it looks like they're trying to take care of noodle flies. So two new terms. So Spore Puffs, they're like a I don't know how you describe them. Like a
insecticide.
yeah. But you can throw them. It does like a puff of gas that will kill most insects. And then Noodle Fly, another enemy. They are
Whoa.
typically passive. They will not mess with you. But if you do like eat their children, then they'll be very upset with, as one would. And the way that they will try to hurt you back is that they have their tongue, their proboscis. I believe I pronounced that right. Anyways, turns
Proboscis,
into
yeah.
like a needle, and then they'll like hover around you and they'll try to stab you. Luckily, Bronsej was on top of it. The moment the noodle fly tried to get him, threw that insecticide and took care of it.
Yeah. Lots of passive creatures in Rain World. Yeah, there's a lot of horrors in this game, and the noodle flies extending their proboscis into a giant needle that stabs you like a spear is definitely one of the horrors of this game. Yeah, I don't know how long I was muted for. I was just mentioning Sheldon's finally getting out of garbage waste now, entering industrial complex, which is one of the regions Polarcat was in earlier. It's kind of that central area, so it'll be interesting to see where they route, because basically anywhere is a valid choice right now, as there's a lot of goals to get. Yeah, Bronsej is in Farm Arrays. Farm Arrays is a difficult region to traverse. They might just choose to leave it as quickly as possible. We'll have to see what ends up happening. I don't know if there's any goals that require them to cross it, but I do know there are a couple of goals in Farm Arrays, so maybe we'll see them stick around here for a little bit.
Yes, looks like they're trying to get the noodle fly eggs. That's one of the goals. So
Yeah.
if you look on the bottom row, kind of hard to see, but it's third from the right. That is hatch noodle fly eggs. So another way to also anger noodle flies is if you steal their eggs. Luckily, I think all the noodle flies are dealt with, and you can go ahead and grab their eggs and hatch them into the shelter, which is one of the goals for Rain World. And then I guess you can kind of use them as food. There's like no other reason to hatch them but for food.
Yeah, they the little infant noodle flies on the next cycle that you wake up, if you've stored the egg in your shelter, they'll all come out and they're worth 2 food each. There's 2 per egg. And so if you store 2 or 3 of them in a shelter, you'll be completely full for the next cycle, so you can not worry about food at all. I think Bronze is going to get their final egg over here on the right. They're going to get blocked by 2 vultures at the same time. Like I mentioned earlier, Hunter has quite aggressive creatures, but they also have aggressive creature spawns in general. And so while most characters would only have maybe 2 or 3 vultures in this region, I believe Hunter has 4 or 5. So they end up they have a hard time trying to do just about anything in farm arrays.
Bronsej is very creative using the Squidcata,
Mm-hmm.
which is what that little bug thing is called, to try to avoid it.
We mentioned
And to get
Ferret
a
mentioned
noodle
these
flag.
in Ferret mentioned these in Sky Islands earlier, but Squidcatas that can act as like a movement booster. They'll allow you to float a little bit when you jump, and Bronze was able to not only dodge the vulture there, but grab this noodle fly egg. You can see the noodle fly there starting to aggro. Bronze is going to get the pesticides again, and
The noodle fly and the entire family just got. Oh no, the children live somehow. Okay.
yeah, that was I think this is going to be their last one. We'll have to see. Yep, there we go. So that'll be 3 eggs in one cycle that'll hatch on the next cycle. So they're going to be locking in all 5 of those at once. We kind of skipped over it a little bit earlier, but Pink ended up getting, I believe, 4 goals in the same sleep. I believe that was Syrilth who was doing that. So yeah, I don't remember any more, but they ended up getting quite a few there. They're getting a pretty commanding lead over green right now. We're playing for majority, not for bingo. Not that there is a bingo right now. Just in order to get the biggest showcase we can out of this mod.
Yes. and Syrilth, top right, entering another new region. I believe this is subterranean.
This is subterranean. Yep.
Very challenging part of subterranean as well. It's called the filtration system. It's riddled with tight, like a maze of pipes. Very difficult to navigate, and what makes it extra hard is that you'll see a new lizard type. They're pitch black. You can kind of see them when their heads glow, but they're known as mole lizards, and they cannot see, but they can hear very well.
On the top left, Polar is, you can see Industrial Complex is highlighted there. Polar is using a mechanic that is just part of regular Rain World, but is also used in Bingo, where each player is able to have one passage token. So I mentioned passages earlier as like those extra achievements you can get, like the little challenges. In base Rain World, once you get one of those passages, for most characters, you're able to use the passage to fast travel to any discovered shelter so far on that save. In Bingo, all the players start with one passage. They can't gain any more tokens, but it looks like Polar has seen enough strategic advantage in warping back to this center area industrial complex that they decided to use their passage on it. And it is interesting to see both players at this late in the game in the same region on the same team. Sheldon and Polar both in industrial complex. It's usually pretty rare that teams end up overlapping this late in the game, so it must be pretty important whatever routing they've got going on here. Sheldon is going to be making it to our next new region.
Also, top left with Polar. Speaking of the red creatures we talked about earlier, this is the lizard version of it. Super dangerous, incredibly fast, can bit at you to try to like knock you down. Will always instantly kill you with the bite. And then if that's not hard enough for you, there's actually a setting in this game where you can allow them to actually steal your spears from your hand and have it like a sticky tongue as well, just in case they weren't challenging enough as is.
Yeah,
it looks like
red
Polar
lizards,
is doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, they're doing a pretty good job evading this. Red lizards are they're very quick. This is some style. Okay, red lizards are very kind of easy to juke with sound because they're so aggressive, they'll reliably come towards you. Polarcat was using a mechanic there called mouth spearing. So we mentioned earlier that you can only throw spears into the backs of lizards, but there's actually another mechanic where if a lizard has its mouth open enough and you're skilled enough, you can actually throw a spear into their mouth, and it will stun them for a huge amount of time, and it'll deal 1.5 times damage. So it's a really baller, because it's super risky. If it misses, you're just going to die, but also a very stylish way to end up killing a lizard.
Nice job for Polar. That was super efficient way of killing them. I've never seen someone just do it with straight spears. Typically, you want to use like an explosive spear.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that, but that's another kind of weapon in Rain World, is spears tipped with explosives, so you can stab them and then it will explode and deal massive damage. But yeah, Polar swagged on that red lizard, which is great to see. Also, green, I believe that was green. Yeah, Sheldon locked in taming a pink lizard. So another mechanic in Rain World related to lizards is your reputation can be positive with a creature. And with specific lizards, if you give them food and enough food to get over their taming threshold, they will become tamed. And so they'll follow you around. They'll act as your bodyguard. It's very cute. You can see Sheldon's right here with their pink lizard. I think they panicked a little bit and stabbed it. But it'll have this spidey sense and be able to find Sheldon anywhere on the map. And yeah, so that is one of the goals, is to tame a specific kind of lizard. Pinks are pretty easy to tame, so I think Sheldon got that in Industrial quite easily. Got that in Outskirts quite easily.
Outskirts, yes. Outskirts, by the way, I think we forgot to mention, but another reason. This is actually the beginning region, at least when you're playing as like the base game character. It's typically very easy, but because Hunter is the hard mode, they decided to make this region extra hard by shoving as many creatures in it as possible, including 2 red lizards, several drop wigs, a ton of centipedes. So it's actually very difficult as Hunter, but it's a very relatively tame region just because it is the first one and helps introduce the player to the game.
Yeah, Sheldon's being pursued by a very aggressive dropwig there. They dispatched him. This room has 5 dropwigs, all lined up on this structure right above Sheldon here. And yeah, it's quite an evil room. It's pretty iconic for Rain World, playing Hunter, trying to get through this evil room, as a lot of the times it's kind of hard to combat these dropwigs, and they have this fission reaction where you'll kill one and its corpse will fall underneath another dropwig, triggering that dropwig, which will then make that dropwig move and then trigger another dropwig, so on and so forth. That room's usually a nightmare, but Sheldon dealt with it pretty well. Syrilth
Bottom
is...
right with
Oh, yeah?
Bronsej. If you can see at the ground, you see all that dancing, squiggling worm-like things. Well, those are called worm grass, and is the kind of the environmental like danger of farm arrays. So bottom right, we can't see it anymore, but if you stay in this worm grass for too long, they actually nibble on you, and eventually they will kill you.
Yeah.
You typically have to use those giant deer-like creatures. They're called reindeer. Um, to walk over them, you can hop on their horns, but that is incredibly slow. These runners are very skilled, so they will just kind of hop around and avoid the grass um, naturally. But there are some cases where you just cannot cross this worm grass. Yes.
Yeah, this is all
Very
the small
dangerous.
stuff. We haven't... I think... Actually, yeah, I don't think Bronze has seen any of the nasty worm grass that requires deer or other special kinds of traversal. But yeah, this is the short worm grass. Anything, stuff that gets bigger and bigger will kill you quite quickly if you're in it. Syrilth on the top right has made his way through subterranean and is in filtration system, which Ferret mentioned earlier, filtration proper. You can see by the red glow and just how claustrophobic this area is. We'll see some mole lizards too here at some point. Well, maybe we'll see them. They're quite hard to see actually unless they hear any noise, in which case they'll flash and you can see them in the shortcuts, but they're quite difficult to attack in here. There's another passage that got there, the center square by green team. That is the Dragon Slayer passage. So I've mentioned many times now the different colors of lizards, and it is actually a passage in Rain World to kill, I believe it's 6 unique
Yes.
lizard colors. And so whoever it was, I believe it was Sheldon, has been getting around. A lot of these lizards are only in certain regions, so you have to be pretty strategic about which ones you kill and where you're killing them. But yeah, it looks like they've gotten that. It's usually a later game square, which makes sense about an hour in now.
Yes, you typically do not want to be in filtration system. It's one of the hardest regions to deal with, and people get frustrated very fast. Even people who
Yeah.
know their way around.
I'm curious what Syrilth is doing here as well, just because I'm looking at the goals. I guess, maybe mother spiders. So one of the enemies you can find in filtration system is another one of the horrors of Rain World. These are called mother spiders. We haven't seen one yet, but you will know one when you see them. They're giant green spiders, and if you happen to be unfortunate enough to kill one, they will explode into a bunch of tiny little spiders that will coalesce into a centipede that will kill you. You will just be swarmed and die. So it's a really unfortunate enemy to have to kill, which is one of the squares, especially in filtration system, where you are at a severe movement disadvantage with how tight and constrained you are. So we're going to see Syrilth try and get this soon enough.
Yes, but so that is true about mother spiders. You kill them and they pop and then a bunch of spiders will swarm you. It looks like Syrilth is actually coming prepared. He's holding a flashbang, and one of the biggest weakness to all spiders is the flashbang. So if he was to kill it and it swarms on him, he can throw it and it will stun them immediately. And most spiders will die. The ones he's dealing with that is unfortunate actually.
Yeah, grabbed by a different spider type.
I guess I kind of lied a little bit. The spitter spider, which is the one he's dealing with, is kind of immune to flashbangs.
Yeah,
That's the one exception to that rule. Unfortunate
Yeah.
for him, but
But yeah, so I think Cyril's plan there might be to stab a mother spider, and then all of the baby spiders will get killed by the flashbang that they throw afterwards. Bronsej, I know, did they just lock it in or not? I can't tell. The 2 pain cones. No, they didn't. They might be getting food for that. Yeah, Syrilth, unfortunately, did encounter the only spider that is immune to the flashbangs. It looks like Bronze is going to sleep right now. So Bronsej is getting a goal. It is a pretty complex mechanic. I mentioned way earlier on these beehives, as we call them, and a scavenger threw one at, I believe, Polarcat, way back in memory crypts, long time ago. And basically, when they explode, they end up shooting out a bunch of bees that tether you to the ground and the floor and the ceiling and kind of pin you down and get you killed a lot of the time. There's quite a few of them in farm areas where Bronsej is at, and using those insecticides we mentioned earlier, you can actually pacify them so that you can pick them up without aggroing them and then throw them later. And so, kind of complex mechanic, but Bronze was able to get 2 spore puffs as 2 of those insecticides pacify 2 of those beehives and store 2 of them in a shelter at the same time. Now they're going to
Also
be
looks
leaving.
like Syrilth. Yeah, Syrilth found their mother spider, by the way, so they're going to be going for that goal. Kind of like disappeared on them, though. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Just
Sheldon
dropped in
found
from
the
the top
outskirts.
pipe. Oh, nice.
All right, there we go. Sheldon found the outskirts vista as well. This is just one of the 3 locations you can spawn in. 2 of them are quite close to each other, so yeah, Sheldon's kind of free to get this. But on the bottom right, Bronze, so I mentioned earlier, got those pain cones, as we call them, beehives in the shelter. They are entering outskirts from a different direction. So a lot of these regions have different connections, and they are entering from farm arrays, while Sheldon entered from industrial complex. And so they're having to pass through the outskirts scavenger toll, which you don't often see if someone has not entered through farm arrays. It doesn't have anything to do with farm arrays. So it's good to see it here. This is, we call it the party zone. Lots of lizards spawn nearby, and there's lots of scavengers, which is kind of, it's like putting ice cubes in a deep fryer. There's always going to be some kind of chaos happening. A lot of carnage. Looks like Syrilth is just going to try and make it back to the shelter now that they've gotten that kill mother spider goal. They're being blocked by a mole lizard right now. Just going to slink off away. Oh my god. Okay, nice jukes. Mole lizards, like we mentioned before, they can hear, they can't see, so they're very similar to daddy longlegs, if you remember them from the underhang. And as hunter, when you have pretty low reputation, they can be quick to snap you if they hear you. So that juke was pretty well executed to not die there. And yeah, there's Syrilth locking in that kill mother spiders goal, those green ones, kind of bottom right. We're getting close.
What Syrilth's plan is, because
Yeah,
now that he's
like,
stuck in filtration, he's gonna have to make his way out. And I don't know if there's any other goals down there that really matter.
There is the subterranean pearl to Moon. So I think you could grab the filtration system pearl and take that. It technically counts as it. So yeah, we'll have to see. I suspect they'll grab this and then maybe passage. Use their passage to go back somewhere closer to Moon in order to deliver that pearl. Looks like Syrilth has a decent reputation with these scavengers too. And not getting killed on sight is great.
Nice. If you like, the cool thing about the scavengers, if you do get them to like you like enough, they will let you like pass their tolls for free, though they'll still get irritated.
Yeah.
But they'll also like send out like escort parties as well. And I think filtration is one of those regions where they'll do that for you.
They have.
I don't know if that's what this is, but.
I think this is just a swarm of them that always spawns in here and gets killed quite quickly. But they are, yeah, scavengers are very interesting. Like if you have incredibly low rep, they'll send out kill squads after you. And if you have mediocre rep, they'll just be like, all right, whatever. And then if you have really high rep, they'll send out squads to help you, which oftentimes is a hindrance because, as I've mentioned before, scavengers aren't the greatest at keeping their own friends alive. So being a friend of a scavenger isn't a blessing most of the time. New goal,
also,
locked in by Sheldon.
Bottom left, storing 2 pearls in outskirts. Very simple. You just got to find 2 colored pearls like we described a little bit earlier. They're spread out through the entire game. Doesn't matter which ones, but you just got to take them to the outskirts region, which is probably one of the easier goals to get.
Yeah, I think Bronze, I believe it was, had enough foresight to grab a colored pearl in farm arrays and brought it into outskirts, as outskirts only really has one accessible colored pearl for hunter. You kind of have to bring another one in from a different region in order to store them in the same region. So yeah, they executed that pretty well. A lot of forethought into doing something like that. We're getting close on the end here. Still, no, if we could have played this as not a lockout and an actual bingo, and there still wouldn't be a bingo this late in, which is pretty incredible.
I would be so incredibly surprised if anyone could pull off a bingo in a 6x7 square. No, 7x7 square. Imagine being able to count.
Well, looks like Sheldon is going to start getting progress on another goal, which would give Red a bingo. So what Sheldon is holding in the bottom left is called a hazer. They're a special kind of creature that acts as a food source, but also if you throw them when they're alive, they will release a bunch of ink like a squid and kind of act as a smoke bomb and obscure sight. And this goal that Sheldon has to do is to take this hazer, the same one, through 3 different gates. So we're going to see maybe a journey through drainage system here, which is a new region. Lots of water puzzles, lots of kind of silly enemies as Hunter. And it is kind of troublesome to traverse, especially if you have a dead Hazer, as once a Hazer is dead, you will eat it. But if it's alive, you can store it in your stomach, which I don't think is a mechanic I've mentioned so far. But it does make it a little bit more annoying, as you have to always have it out and about, taking up a hand slot. So we'll have to see how they deal with some of these evil creatures.
Yes, and looking at the board, I'm going to suspect, so one's already in drainage system, but the other place I'm assuming people are going to start going back to is garbage waste. There's still like kill two brother longlegs, which is like the daddy longlegs, but like a lesser version of them, easier to deal with. They also have, let's see, a garbage waste pearl to moon. So I'm imagining people, the players will start going back towards the regions they originated from. Still have to befriend a white lizard as well. They could probably do that anywhere.
Yeah, I was thinking Polarcat might try to do that, but they chose violence. So it looks like Sheldon is also looking for the drainage system Vista. This is one of the rooms it could spawn in. However, it's not there, so they're gonna have to find it in a different location. Syrilth is also headed into drainage system from subterranean. So while Sheldon entered from outskirts, Syrilth is headed up to it from subterranean. And it looks like Bronze actually has... Oh, they grabbed a Hazer in Farmerays. I didn't notice it. They've just gotten enough progress for this Hazer through Gate Skull that Sheldon is working on. And they've kept it in their stomach this whole time because they kept it alive. And so they've gone from Farmerays into Outskirts, and then from Outskirts into Industrial Complex, and then from Industrial Complex finally into Chimney Canopy here. And they're going to shelter and lock this goal in, which is going to block, or is going to give Pink their bingo here.
Also, look at top left, Syrilth. Kind of just chilling with the
Top right.
cyan lizard.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
top right, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah,
Did
he's
they
tamed
tame
that guy.
the cyan?
Yeah, I think they did. So
So-
this is what it's like when you've tamed a lizard.
Yeah. Fun fact: cyans are very deadly and smart until you tame them, and then they become very dumb and suicidal. They will just jump off cliffs, and it's super frustrating to deal with them.
They are, however, for like, if you need to shelter with one of the best lizards to tame, just because of that gaseous propulsion we mentioned earlier. They can move around to just about anywhere. Different lizards have different movement abilities, which is something we've kind of failed to mention at this point. So, say a green lizard, which is on Sheldon's screen right now on the bottom, cannot climb poles, cannot climb walls, and is kind of lumbering on the ground. But cyan lizards can climb on the background walls, they can climb on poles, and they can basically fly. So they're probably the most mobile lizard in the game, and so they're great to tame if you need to take them back to a shelter. What else we got? We got Syrilth is entering drainage system from the lower area, subterranean right now. They're probably going to go and find this Vista, I think. One of the locations for it is on the bottom of drainage system, which makes Syrilth quite a lot closer than Sheldon is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna also guess that bottom right with Bronsej. They're making their way back up Chimney Canopy, which is a very hard route. Going up in this game is incredibly frustrating because lizards can camp here. Like almost a prime example. That cyan lizard was camping the pipe. Luckily, Bronsej was skilled enough to try to bait it. I'm going to assume that they're going to get this pearl, and then they're going to make their way back up the wall. The wall being one of the most challenging parts of the game. Hopefully, we'll get to see it.
Yeah, the wall is an extension of this region that they started in called the exterior. So the exterior comprises the leg, underhang, and the wall. It's the exterior of an actually functioning iterator superstructure. And so earlier, Bronze made the journey up the leg, and then across the underhang of it. Now they're going to make their way back and go up the wall, which, as Ferret mentioned, really dangerous. One of the hardest things to do in this game is deal with a lizard above you, as there's no way to really counter the fact that their head is towards you. Throwing upwards is quite a challenge, actually, to set up. You need some space to do it. So we'll have to see how they deal with it. But it looks like they're just going to grab that pearl from Chimney Canopy, which they've got in their hands right now, and they're going to make their way back to the shelter to lock this goal in really quickly.
Yes. Bottom left with Sheldon though. They're now making their way to filtration system. So I'm curious on what their objective is.
Yeah,
I
maybe
don't
they're looking
think
for this
there's really
Vista.
anything.
But it looks like Syrilth has found
that's
it.
fair.
Yeah, so in the 2 rooms from now is one of the drops. One of the drop rooms would have a Vista. or this room right here, I believe, would have a vista, but unfortunately it's not here. So Sheldon's going to have to make their way along the bottom of drainage system through some really troublesome swims in order to get the vista that Syrilth has actually already gotten. So this is going to be a bit of a heartbreaking moment for Sheldon in terms of wasted effort here in a minute once Syrilth makes it back to the shelter. Swimming is one of the most skill expressive things in Rain World. The movement, you don't act like kind of a moving square, as it were, like you do in quite a few platforms. You're a combination of chunks stitched together, and certain movement key combinations will give you certain kind of movement, and you have a lot of inertia, and so swimming can be troublesome if you're not familiar with it. Syrilth almost died there via drowning, which is kind of what makes the water puzzles difficult. Water puzzles have, at least in drainage system, two main enemies, which are leeches, which you can see Syrilth is swimming through some of them right now, hoping to not get grabbed. Leeches will grab you and weigh you down, which is enough to get you killed quite quickly in water. And there's also snails, which Syrilth almost got killed by earlier. Snails kind of reside around water areas in drainage system, and once you get near one of them, they get frightened and they'll pop and it'll stun you. And that happened to Syrilth and almost got him killed because he got stunned underwater. But it looks like they've gotten the vista. There's a shelter right down here, so they're going to lock this in before Sheldon can even make it to the room with the vista.
Yes, and with this lock-in, there's no reason to be in drainage system anymore. Honestly, it
Sheldon
seems like
is actually
garbage waste up the wall.
Yeah, Sheldon's actually in a great place because this bottom drainage system path leads directly towards garbage waste, which we saw Sheldon spending a lot of time in earlier, which still has, what is it?
2 goals.
Three goals, because
There's
also, yeah, so they're going to be able to get the vista because Syrilth hasn't sheltered yet. But they're going to be locked out of the goal in a hot second here. But yeah, there's 3 goals, I would think. Maybe killing the squidcators as well would be a garbage waste goal. Also, like you, Polarcat is headed towards the wall as well.
See, I'm curious on who's going to try to go for Nomad as well. So one of the goals,
Yeah.
if you look, kind of hard to see, but top right, it's called the Nomad, and that's where you have to travel to 4 different regions and sleep in each one, but you can't sleep in a region twice or it resets the progress.
Yeah.
And this is very difficult with Hunter just because of all the enemies that are around. So I'm very curious on who's going to be able to pull that one off. Perhaps Polarcat, they might be able to go for it if they go up the wall to 5 levels, but I'd be very surprised.
So Nomads, a little bit, you actually just need to go through the gates for the regions. So I think Bronze is actually in a better place to get this if they head into Shaded Citadel here on the right, because they came from Farm Race, through Outskirts, through Industrial Complex, into Chimney Canopy, and now they're back in Industrial, and they're going to go through another gate here shortly. So I think if they can make it through Shaded Citadel, or into Shaded Citadel, and they haven't slept in between that point, they'll be able to get the Nomad here, which is a pretty big goal to block as well, because that would be another opportunity for bingo that Green could have. Particularly they're going to try and get...
Polar.
Yeah.
Top right
Top
Polar,
left.
they're actually about to start... correct, top left. For Polar, they're about to make their way up the wall, so I'm curious on how well that's going to go. Typically, you're going to want a vulture mask, so you know those vultures that can come down? You can actually take their face if you kill them. Actually, you don't even have to kill them. If you hit them,
Bronze has one.
Oh, Bronze has one? Yeah, see, awesome. So these things actually scare lizards. You'll have like, what is it, like 6 or 7 seconds to...
17
pretty much
with
immune to
regulars.
them. Oh, 17, so you get a lot of time.
Yeah, it's great.
The best way to go up the wall is to have this. That way, all the lizards that are typically a problem will just run away.
Yeah, so you can see Polar making their way up. It's a very vertical region, and like I mentioned earlier, being below a lizard is a death sentence. It's pretty hard to counter them. And not only are you below a bunch of lizards on the wall, you're below a bunch of cyan lizards on the wall as Hunter, which I've mentioned are the most mobile lizards. So they'll see you from halfway across the room, they'll blast their way down to you, and they'll bite you from above in a matter of a couple of seconds. So having a vulture mask makes that dramatically easier, but Polarcat doesn't have that luxury, so we're gonna have to see how they end up dealing with all these lizards up here, because we're getting kind of close to our time limit here. We're on blackout, so I don't think it's... Unless... Actually, no, I think Green could get enough to tie. I can't remember if this is set on blackout, but we're just going to end up calling the victor at time based on who has the most squares, which is Pink for sure right now.
I have faith. You could make it up the wall in, what, 6 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
And then
They
I guess
shelter at the bottom.
befriending the light would be rough.
Yeah,
Bottom left,
actually.
very interesting goal. Sheldon's now going to go find the DLLs that are in garbage waste. Um, still very challenging to deal with, mostly because it's hard to maneuver in the rooms that they are in. I'm curious on how they're going to deal with it.
What I suspect they're
Perhaps
going
launch
to do
focus on
is they yeah, so it's easiest to kill these brother longlegs with an explosive spear. Like I mentioned earlier, all of the DLLs had 100 health. I think brother longlegs are somewhere in that ballpark. They have a lot of health. You don't want to kill them with spears. So I think what Sheldon's going to do is make his way to, oh my god, instantly camped
Yeah.
by a dropwig on the shortcut exit there.
Yes, dirty drop. That's
Yeah.
rough.
Just up here for Sheldon, there's a scavenger merchant where you can trade an item to a special kind of scavenger, and it'll trade you back an item of equal value. And for some reason, they kind of equate regular spears and explosive spears. So oftentimes you'll end up trading a regular spear for an explosive spear, which is a great deal, especially because if you can impale the core of a brother longlegs, you can get him killed instantly, or almost instantly. So that might be what Sheldon's play is here. They're out of items to trade, though. Bronze is going to be locking in this square, which is to kill 4 squidcadas. And it looks like with
looks like they have
that,
majority.
right in time, Pink has gotten majority of the board.
Nice.
That
Congratulations.
was a really good showing from Pink. Yeah, congratulations to Syrilth and Bronze. They played that really well. That was a really good showcase too. We went to, I think, most of the regions that Hunter has, with the exception of maybe 2.
Yeah, no 5 pebbles.
Oh, okay, 3. Womp womp.
Yeah, womp womp. Oh well.
Yeah, 5 Pebbles is the name of the giant superstructure that Polarcat is scaling right now, and inside of that area is strange. There's no gravity, and it's just a very different environment. It would be kind of cool to show off, but not too much going on in there. Yeah, this
Yes,
was a great showcase.
Amazing showcase. If you have not played Rain World, would recommend it. A very unique game, very challenging game. It rewards people who experiment, people who are able to like memorize their environment. All about your own personal learning. There isn't any like normal progression like in other games where you make unlocks. It's all on you as a player to
The
learn.
Metroid Brainia, as they call it.
The Metroid Brainia.
Yes, it's what you unlock is the knowledge of how to deal with the environment. Yeah, we've also got another bingo tournament happening right now. If you would like to see more bingo. Yeah, thank you. Also, I want to say thank you to Nasu. You can see created the mod. Took a lot of work to make this work, especially with the multiplayer functionality. I have been recent times trying to extend it, but I'm kind of in awe of the work that they did to make this work. So yeah, thank you for developing this incredible mod and letting the players play this. And also thank you to Fangame Marathon for showcasing this pretty fantastic modern game. You want to take us away?
Well, thank you to all of you for this great showcase. Honestly, you all came through really well, really organized, and really there's a lot of potential. It's the first time I've ever seen a bingo board with, a 7x7 bingo board. And I think a lot of people got to see a lot of Rain World 2, which is a game I think a lot of people have heard of Rain World, but not a lot of people have seen it. So really well done to all of you.
Thank you.
But now we are going to go to our next game, which is Shining Stars 4, a brand new Super Mario 64 ROM hack. Well, brand new, a couple months old, and the run's going to be by Mushy. So stay tuned, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes.